Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is your friend, your mentor, Dharam Singh. And today I am with very beautiful, very smart lady here. And she happened to be my student, of course, and her name is Titi. We call her Titi. Titilayo. That's correct to pronounce?
Titilayo.
Titilayo. Titilayo. Yes. I practice a lot, but I will call you Titi. So, yeah, so Titi is coming with lots of experience working in Canada, currently working in Canada at LandSure Systems Ltd. Is it a government organization?
It's a statutory organization.
Statutory organization where you are playing very important role in project and program in space. Yeah. So, and you have experience working in Waterfall, you have experience working in Agile, hybrid. So, we thought, who else can talk about this hot topic? Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dar. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, the TT passed her PMP exam on November 20th, 2023. Sounds like long time ago.
You want me to speak about that, Dar? Oh.
Yeah, time flies. And I know we had a class in August that was a virtual boot camp. At the time, I was in Sydney, and I conducted a virtual boot camp. You joined the program, and soon after that, 2 months, I think 2 months, 3 months, you completed your PMP. That's a good thing. And then you joined my PGMP program. You are on the path to do PGMP as well. There you go.
That's right. Yes, so I would say I finally did my PMP after so many years of just working in that space and not thinking it was required. But at some point, yes, I did join Dharam's class and I was inspired to actually write the exam. And like you said, I did that in November and passed.
So, Titi, we will talk more about the question, but do you want to tell, many people are in the process of doing PMP. What was the reason for you to pick PMP and how it's helping you with having the knowledge of standards and lots of processes, and in the career-wise, how it can help you and to people who are thinking of doing PMP?
Okay, so I'll start by saying I had done the Prince 2 certification over a decade ago because I was in a region where that's what was required in the UK and environs. And then I didn't feel the need to do a PMP until I came to Canada. And I realized that project management evolves and methodologies also evolve. And I was keen on learning and growing and knowing, what other skills, tools, techniques, methodologies, that I could use to enhance my skills. I felt like I had the hands-on experience, but I wanted the formal knowledge to just validate that I was doing the right thing and to be able to bring the best value, to the work that I was doing. So I did some research online and I found Dharam. I never knew him before. I saw the testimonials and I felt, oh, this is the person I should go with. And I contacted him and of course, did the registration, did the classes. And I would say that I had done a PMP training in the past, but I didn't feel like I had acquired enough knowledge, even from that training or even the inspiration that I needed to write the exam. I think it was more around the knowledge acquisition that I got from those sessions and the inspiration. There's a way that he's infectious with, not settling for less and just going, giving the best, and it pushes you to aspire to become more. So I did the training in August of last year, 2023, but I was busy, as we all are, and I kind of just abandoned it. But then in early November, I picked up the materials and I went over the class, the videos, the materials, We had the PMBOK and we had the other Agile document as well, or book as well. To be honest, I probably just glanced through the Agile part because I felt like I had more recent knowledge in that, and I had also done a Scrum certification recently, so it was just a quick pass through for me. But I picked on a lot of as I went through the videos materials of the class, what I did was to write down the areas where I couldn't really answer the questions easily as he gave questions, and I kept going back to the PMBOK to read up. So I took those as the gaps that I had, and then I'll go to the PMBOK to find the chapters related to those and just read through. So I kind of focused on my gaps first, revised all of that before I did like just one quick pass through of the PMBOK. I can't say that I completely read the entire PMBOK, to be honest. I think it was mainly around the preparation from the class and the questions and just the revisions of the gaps that I did. And in 2 weeks, thereabouts, I went to write the PMP exam.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Good journey. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for picking me as your mentor. It was great working with you. Yeah. So one thing I like to highlight to people who are thinking of doing PMP or any other certificate. So don't do certificate just because everybody else doing it. You should see the value from the certificate. And some of these certificates are now becoming kind of hiding factor. Without that certificate, you're not entertained in the job market. And I can tell you from my own experience when I was going through the jobs, when I was working in Australia at the time, and I happened to, that the recruitment agent called me, hey, Dharam, this is my first role in this account, and I will be happy to, talk to you over coffee. And he came to the place where I was going to start early morning, and then he was saying, Dharam, you're very lucky. You picked up for this role. I said, okay, I'm lucky. But for me, I was thinking, this is another role. But he said, Dharam, there were 150 applications for this role. And because we're talking Telstra as one of the, telecom, #1 company in Australia. And I said, okay, tell me why you pick me over other people, because he can only submit 3 applications to the client, his client. And just like he's submitting, there are other 5 agents, they also going to put 3 applications. So why did you select me out of 150? So that discussion was very insightful. He said that, look, 150 people, we cannot see all the applications. That's for fact. So many applications, so many resume, if they start seeing everything, they cannot complete the job. So what we start seeing, interstate, international, we just remove them. Then we run a what you call screening system, which pick the application with PMP. Wow, okay. So we were able to eliminate around 50% application out of that. That's a good number. So just by having not having PMP, you cannot be picked up for even for the next round. So that's a big learning for me. Of course, then you start talking about the reason we picked you, because you are teaching, your online presence is very strong, and we have seen your work, and all those things are important. So which we talked about. But why I'm trying to talk about, because PMP is now a hygiene factor. Without PMP, you cannot expect to see yourself going to the next level. That's my observation, and my recommendation to anyone who's still thinking of doing CAPM or PMP, or maybe thinking of PGMP, PFMP. Don't delay, get it done, because you will learn the better way of doing things. You can compare the way I'm doing versus what PMI is suggesting. So learn from that, learn from the expert. There's so many learning available like this. This will be on the YouTube very soon, and just like that, I have maybe 300 recordings from my past webinars and podcasts, and I've shared the link on the chat. I think, if not, I will share later. And you can see the chat. You can see, but learn from experts, and also do the certificate and put yourself in the right place. Very competitive environment, A lot of companies are hiring only the right people, and there are a lot of reorgs also happening. People are losing job, and sometimes they are cutting 20% of the workforce. Yes, it's 20%, but when they're picking, they pick the people they want to get rid of at the time. And sometimes it's not of your fault. You got picked up because, hey, you are not a PMP, you are not done any more certification, and so on and so on. Anyway, so that's enough from me, and this is not my day to talk. I have Titi for this purpose. I have so many questions, and we have very interesting topic today, talking about mastering the hybrid project management, integrating Agile and Waterfall. So everybody, a lot of people talking about Agile, but here we're talking about mastering the hybrid project management, including both Waterfall and the Agile. Okay. All right. So I got a question now. Okay. I already have a question from Donna. I will see if the same question or not. But before I ask your question, let me get started. I will ask your question as well. Don't worry. So, Titi, anything else you like to say before we get started?
No, nothing there. We can go on.
All right, so we are good to go. And how does the shift towards tailored fit-for-purpose approach help organizations thrive in dynamic business landscape, especially in the hybrid project management? What do you think?
I'm going to start by saying that the hybrid methodology combines the traditional, which is predictive or waterfall, and agile methodologies, as we know. And this offers flexibility and structure to manage projects effectively. Every organization is different, and as well as every project. So it's very important not just to bring in the methodology, but to adapt it to the organizational needs and to those specific projects at that point. So in tailoring some of the approaches that for hybrid methodology will be looking at things like the adaptability to the project needs. And by that, I mean checking what's the complexity of the project. Is there what level of uncertainty? I don't know if we're familiar with in the agile world, we call it the VUCA, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. So you look at some of those things, and depending on the scale where it falls, you determine how much agile you want to include in that project. Some require some structure when it comes to maybe timelines, budgets. And so when you look at those factors, then if you see that there is the presence of that level of complexity, yet there's the need for some structure in some aspect, then it's a good case for the hybrid. So adapting to the project needs, as well as the stakeholder requirements. So some stakeholders have varying requirements. So some of those stakeholders, like where I work, could also be government bodies, regulatory authorities who have defined ways of doing certain things. So if you have those also, then you need to also ensure that your methodology for delivering such projects is also tailored to those stakeholder needs appropriately. Then we'll also look at resources. What kind of resources do we have? What skill sets do they have? How best can we utilize the resources that we have? Efficient use of skills and tools. Project managers typically optimize available skills and tools, ensuring that resources are effectively and efficiently managed. So taking a look at that and tailoring the project management methodology such that as a project manager, you can leverage the best of the tools from both is also very important. Cost management is also another critical area where you want to tailor your approach to help better budgeting and cost control, applying the right level of management rigor where needed. We also have risk management, which is also another area where you want to ensure that you're utilizing the best, where you can have a structured upfront, maybe workshop for risk analysis and assessments, which is leveraging more of the waterfall, but at the same time, you want to be able to adapt to the changing risks as you go through the project in an agile way. So ensuring that you bring the two together in the best way to suit the needs of the project is also another critical aspect. So tailoring definitely improves project performance. The customization of processes required there provides a balanced approach, increases stakeholder satisfaction, engagement and communication with stakeholders at different levels using different approaches, designing and leading to higher satisfaction levels. It helps with delivery of value because when you adapt to the necessary, all the factors that we've talked about, then you can deliver better value to the stakeholders. Scalability, flexibility, as we've talked about, continuous improvement. You can benefit from obviously the agile approach where you have feedback, pilots, whatever it is that you do there for continuous improvement, and blend that into lessons learned, adapt that, and then just make the best of the project. So in summary, tailoring approaches in a hybrid project management is essential for addressing the unique needs of the project, addressing the risk, optimizing resources, and improving performance throughout the project.
Great. Thank you for explaining. Look, I have worked in waterfall and I have worked in agile, and I have worked a little bit in hybrid, but the way you explain, the way you can tailor it based on your needs and that complexity, and then whatever is needed, risk management of this, how much you have to do. So not to cut corners, but to use the best of the both methodologies and get the best result for your organization.
Yeah, it's about pulling from both, pulling what's relevant from both, and just tailoring it to the specific need for that project.
Perfect. Thank you for the explanation. All right. So what are the potential advantages and challenges when merging the structured planning of waterfall method with the adaptive nature of agile, especially when we talk about hybrid projects?
Okay, so I'm going to leverage some of the points that I just made around tailoring for hybrid projects as well. When we talk about the flexibility and adaptability, as we know, well, maybe not as we know, it's my opinion that the agile methodology provides a bit more flexibility and adaptability, and so teams can actually leverage that level of flexibility and adaptability from infusing the agile methodology into the project, whilst at the same time you can leverage the structure and the rigor that you have from waterfall to enhance certain processes, and also in terms of being able to respond to changes. There are benefits from both agile and waterfall. Agile allows for rapid response to changes, while waterfall provides that structured plan where you can do your change control in a structured manner, whilst for the agile you can get feedback from customers, and you still, in the hybrid, what the benefits of change control there is that whilst you get the feedback from the customer, in a typical agile scenario, you throw that feedback into your backlog and you keep going, right? So, but with the hybrid approach, you get the feedback, you put it in the backlog, but you also then adapt the structured approach for change control, which comes from the waterfall, to ensure that that project still stays within scope, whilst you can control scope rather, whilst you are still leveraging the flexibility of the adaptive methodology in that case. Also, in the case of risk management, agile practices facilitate identification and mitigation of risk as you go along. Structured risk planning, however, happens with waterfall planning upfront, which helps identify potential risks early in the project life cycle. So merging the two, where you've done the upfront risk analysis and identification, and then mitigating those risks, creating your mitigation strategies and risk responses, as well as leveraging the potential benefits of Agile as you go along during the development is also an advantage. There's the enhanced collaboration as well and communication, a lot of collaboration, team collaboration, self-organized teams when it comes to Agile. Then when it comes to the hybrid approach, there is also the structured communication where there are status reports or whatever is defined as the cadence for reporting and monitoring and controlling. So bringing the two together obviously enhances, the quality of the projects, and the outputs, and also improved quality performance is also something else that I feel is an advantage. So the Agile iterative cycles and retrospectives, it fosters that continuous improvement process and deliverables. Waterfall's phased approach also includes a dedicated testing phase, verification, validation, which when combined together helps produce better quality in terms of the project. Yeah, so in terms of the advantages, the challenges, you want me to talk about the challenges at this point? Okay, so challenges, the first one that I would highlight here is cultural resistance. I've had situations over and over again where there's a different mindset when it comes to stakeholders, when it comes to project delivery. So being able to navigate, and help with those different philosophies, which can lead to resistance, is very important in overcoming the challenges with Agile. Change management, employing a hybrid approach for change management to align the new team members with the new process could be a challenge. So when you have people that are coming from Agile world, they are not used to the rigor of change control. And so when you're trying to do that, I've had that experience with teams where the product owners and, Scrum masters are like, this is not how we want to do it. We just want to throw it in the backlog and keep going. But as a project manager, you have to be able to tell them that's okay, it's okay to do that. But we also need to keep an eye on our schedule, our budget, our scope, and manage that effectively. So that's a combination of the team's mindset and their experience levels and culture. So all the cultural resistance, comes into play there. Then there's the complex integration. Sometimes that integration can be complex because you need to be able to define where exactly you're going to use waterfall and where the Agile is going to be best suited. So integrating both can be complex, requiring careful planning and coordination, being able to identify the benefits and the demerits of both, helping everyone to see and understand that and have a plan regarding how to address those conflicts or process conflicts, as it were, as you go along. Sometimes there could be project management challenges such as dual tracking. You want to be able to track your Agile sprints, burn down charts, velocity, and all of that. But at the same time, you want to be able to track your waterfall phases and what has been defined. So sometimes that dual tracking can be time consuming. Skill set requirements as well is another thing. So it could be a steep learning curve because being experienced in waterfall and being experienced in Agile are two different things, but when you have to integrate that, it can be a steep learning curve for both project managers as well as the teams that are involved. It takes some learning, and growing in that area. Then there's the communication issues that can also arise. Stakeholders with different expectations, having what Agile and waterfall, understanding Agile and waterfall can be challenging. I've had a situation, for example, where I have had executive stakeholders that want to know when timelines, and they want to hold you by the budget and the timeline and the scope at the start of the project, but also want the benefit of having customer feedback as well. So being able to manage that expectation and give the value to those stakeholders and explain why some things will change because of Agile and all of that sometimes can be it requires a lot of communication and consistent communication for that matter across different teams and across various stakeholders. Then there's the one we've talked about, which is scope management, which is for sure something that can be, if not carefully managed within a hybrid environment, can be a bit messy. It's clear how to do it in Waterfall, it's clear how it's done in Agile, so bringing the two together sometimes can be a bit challenging with managing requirements and then balancing resources between Agile sprints and Waterfall phases as well can be challenging. So at the end of the day, we know that there are significant benefits such as improved flexibility, risk management, resource optimization. However, there are also challenges that we mentioned: cultural resistance, complex integration, management difficulties, communication, and all of that.
Perfect. You are spot on most of the points. Exactly what happened in most of the organization when you try to bring them together. Of course, there are a lot of advantages in bringing them together. You get flexibility and this, and at the same time you control. But challenges, of course, when people join into your team, they come with the expectation, hey, we are doing Agile. What is this? We have to do some Waterfall as well. They have to, there's some training requirements, some mindset change. All things are happening.
Sure.
I have a question here. Is there any tool that works best for this hybrid model?
I won't say I have seen a tool that is specific for hybrid. In my experience, we bring tools from both worlds. And to be specific, I would say when we're talking about Waterfall, of course, we're talking about things like using Microsoft Project, Smartsheet, whatever it is for scheduling, resource management, and all of that. And for Agile, we're probably using Jira boards, Kanban boards. It depends on what we're using, whether it's Scrum, Kanban, conference pages. In my experience, we use both. So because we're doing hybrid, we do, which is what I spoke to in terms of tracking, monitoring, and all of that can be time consuming, but it is what it is. So you have to use a combination of tools. That's the experience I have. So I use Jira tools, I use Confluence, and I use Smartsheet, and just combine both and deliver the value that you need from both.
Yeah, I think it can become messy if you have to use so many tools, but I know one tool which can handle both Waterfall, Agile, and hybrid, all the three methodologies within a single system, and is also having connected with having all the system, including your HR, your human resource management happening in the same platform, risk management, change management happening in the same platform. So that is called VXDCC. If anybody looking for more interest, more information, let me know. I will discuss more about that and help you out with more information, how you can tailor it, how can you use it. So this is coming from VXO Digital and the system called VXDCC.
Okay. I've learned something too. I'm going to connect.
You are here to learn, not only giving, you are here to learn as well. I'm here learning from every webinar I do with so many people. I learn a lot from you guys. Secret revealed. Okay, great. Thank you, and thanks for the question. Okay, my next question is, can you provide example of large-scale transformation project where the hybrid approach was particularly effective or challenging?
I could use an example of one of my projects. Yeah, it's a software development project, obviously a 3-year project that was to create an online workspace for customers for business process automation, so to speak. So customers currently submitted applications using PDFs, and they have what we call plans and handoff plans between land surveyors. I don't want to go into technical terms, legal professionals and all of that. So huge number of plans and applications, and all of that was supposed to be transitioned to an online workspace where end-to-end processes could be very complex project involving loads of stakeholders. I would say that the hybrid approach is what we used, or we are using. We're in the almost third year of the project now, and it's been a bit challenging, and interesting at the same time. But the way that we have done it is we've identified what phases of the project we want to use waterfall for, and typically what we did was use waterfall for the planning of the project. In terms of writing all the business requirement documents, obviously starting with the business case, business requirement documents, functional, non-functional specs, technical specs, all of that, having all that elaborate documentation where all the stakeholders are reading through the requirements and ensuring that all the requirements are actually captured in that project, in the artifacts. And then we went on to using Agile for the execution of the project. So initial planning and requirements gathering with using waterfall through documentation and all the initial risk management, while an Agile Scrum team was set up to develop and iterate on the software application, doing rapid prototyping, feedbacks. We do pilots, so we have several iterations and releases. There's a release plan and Scrum teams. All the rigor of for Agile Scrum, and then we're doing the rapid prototyping, and we're getting the feedback from the customers. We have had 7 releases so far to show you the magnitude of the project, and each of those iterations has taken 2 to 3 months. So it's not even as rapid as you would have for a typical Agile delivery, where maybe you can have a deliverable per sprint cycle or something. So it's actually huge. But the feedback from the customers for every of the pilots that we've had after every iteration has been valuable. Of course, we have had a lot of scope changes based on that, despite the upfront planning that was done using waterfall, because people know what they know at the beginning. Sometimes they don't know what they don't know until they see something, and then they realize, oh, we missed this, or yes, we did say we wanted a black headphone, but we didn't say that we wanted a black headphone that had volume. I'm just using that as an analogy. So you find out new requirements as you go along, and the process of putting in stringent scope management is what has helped keep that project on track, so to speak, because otherwise, it would have blown out of proportion. I know that the hybrid approach has helped us control the complex nature of the project, and it has helped us to have faster time to market for the digital solution that we're trying to build, as well as the customer feedback. It has impacted, obviously, costs, because with scope increases will be cost changes to the budget and timelines. So, those are some of the advantages we've gained and the merits that we've had, along the line. But communication with project sponsor, with the executives and all the stakeholders as those changes were being made is what has at least not allowed anyone to have surprises or to just expect the changes, and we've managed stakeholder expectation that way.
Good job. Fantastic. So it's all going good so far? Yes,
it's going good so far. I would say that this project didn't start off very well, to be honest. And that was before I joined, not because I performed any magic or miracles there, but some of the things that I just described were not happening in the beginning. And to be specific, when there was feedback from the iterations, the iterative approach that was being used, the Scrum team will just throw that feedback right into the backlog and keep going. So there was no structured change control, there was no communication to stakeholders, and all the stakeholders were up in arms about budget just being bloated, timelines just going on. And so one of the things that we've done is what I described, where we included the scope control, change logs, change requests, and then the communication upfront. This is about to affect, the timelines because we are throwing this in, and it's going to then cost this and that. So stakeholders are now, a little more tolerant with the changes to the budgets and the timelines. So it's going well now. Yeah.
Perfect. So let me ask the next question. How do you handle stakeholder expectation and change management in the hybrid project environment?
To be honest, I won't say that there is any real difference in how to handle stakeholder expectations in a big way. I think that if we adopt the right approach to managing stakeholder expectations that we use in Waterfall or Agile, even in hybrid, in my opinion, it should suffice. And what are those? Clear communication, just ensuring that there are regular updates, there's transparent reporting, and that transparent regular updates through meetings, reports, dashboards, keeping stakeholders informed on project progress, milestones, and any potential issues. Transparent reporting, tracking all the phases of Waterfall, as well as the Agile sprints and deliverables, ensuring that we have defined roles and responsibilities for those stakeholders. So doing your stakeholder mapping and creating an engagement plan for the stakeholders. Obviously, based on how we've analyzed the stakeholders, we know which ones have an appetite for hybrid or not. And so it goes back to also tailoring that communication that we've talked about to those stakeholders in the specific. So maybe that could be the nuance for hybrid, where in a Waterfall or Agile, we probably will be communicating based on stakeholders I'm not even going to say it's going to be the same way, because you still communicate with your stakeholders differently based on their interests and their needs and so many things, irrespective of the methodology. But I think in hybrid, being able to distinguish between those that understand hybrid and those that don't, and know what is important to those who are leaning more towards the Waterfall part of the hybrid and those that are leaning more towards the Agile, and being able to tailor your communication to them. In that way, in the sense of giving them reports on Waterfall phases for those who are more Waterfall, and not giving them so much details on Agile that they might not understand, and vice versa. So maybe those kind of things, understanding their roles, their responsibilities, understanding who they are, outlining how those stakeholders will be involved at what phase of the project, and knowing what is important for them in those phases. So if a stakeholder is going to be involved more in execution, and your execution is in Agile, then you know that depending on who that stakeholder is, if that stakeholder is conversant with the Agile methodology, then the way that you communicate to that stakeholder will be different from the way that you communicate that same execution to one who maybe is new to that. So tailoring also comes in place here to manage stakeholder expectations. So I think it's really just communicating, communicating, and getting that feedback loop as well, not just from the customers, but also from the stakeholders, to gather their inputs, address any concerns that they have promptly, and aligning and adjusting to the expectations as you go along. Using Agile user stories to get their requirements and capture their needs, and engaging them to ensure that they are met iteratively. We can manage changes through, of course, change management plans, impact analysis, and again, stakeholder involvement, documentation, and communication. I think it all revolves around a lot of communication, managing the changes, giving them the opportunity to provide feedback, based on what aspect of the project that you're in and what methodology you're using in that aspect of the project. So when you're in the waterfall phase of a hybrid project, then of course all your reporting and communication is tailored towards that methodology and towards the stakeholders in that phase. And then when you move into the agile phase, then you adjust and adapt your communication to the methodology and the stakeholders in that phase, and also give them the opportunity to provide feedback. So maintaining clear communication, setting realistic expectations, involving the stakeholders in the process, throughout the process, and being flexible and adaptable. You can navigate the complexities of hybrid projects.
Yeah. Very nice, very good. So yeah, stakeholder engagement, expectation management, communication management is the key to success of any project, not just hybrid. And pretty much you do same thing with and all kind of projects. But yes, and you can have challenges because some of the people are very well have understanding of the waterfall. Some are more comfortable with agile. Now we're talking about the hybrid, and they need, when you communicate your reporting and whatever mechanism you have, make sure you have to keep an eye or think about both type of stakeholders, and that should come out as part of your stakeholder identification and stakeholder analysis, what they know, what they need, what kind of information, when they need, in what format. So that's what, with any type of methodology, that's important. And part of the PMP learning and all the standard for program management, they all focus more on the how to identify the stakeholder, how to analyze the stakeholder, what exactly you have to do, you come up with the stakeholder engagement plan, and so on. Okay, great. Thank you. My next question is, what are some common warning signs of scope creep and increasing risk in hybrid projects, and how can they be addressed early?
Okay, when it comes to identifying and mitigating scope creep in and risk in hybrid projects, a proactive approach obviously has to be used, combining the structured planning with the flexibility that we talked about earlier. One of the first things that we need to do is to have a clear project scope from the outset. So when we define the scope early, clearly define the scope at the beginning, including deliverables, timelines, and milestones, boundaries, whatever. Have detailed requirements, which is one of the benefits of hybrid, because you're able to detail those requirements upfront, and what is in scope, what is out of scope, clearly captured from the beginning in the project charter or wherever. Then we have the next thing is to ensure that there are regular scope reviews, frequent check-ins, conduct regular scope reviews during agile sprints and waterfall phases to ensure that the project is on track. Involve stakeholders. We cannot overemphasize that. I think the stakeholders are the ones that we are trying to deliver the value to, most of all. Those stakeholders can be internal, external. Involving them in those scope reviews is very important. It's not the job of the project manager or the project team to solely just identify the scope. It is not even the job. It is the stakeholders who are going to let the project team know that the scope is same or is going to change. Documentation is also another important thing. I mean, when we involve the stakeholders, we're able to identify what they're referring to as any change in scope. And once we get that feedback, then we can start to know that this request, we can map it with what we had identified as in scope and out of scope. So if a new request comes from a stakeholder, easily you can go back to say, was it defined as out of scope at the beginning or in scope? And once you're able to do that, then you can tell that if I don't manage this effectively, it's going to result in scope creep. And so you swing into your change control at that point, where you bring in your change log and obviously look at, again, what's the scope baseline that was identified, and maybe reestablish a scope baseline at that point, or reference that scope baseline that was defined. And so those are one of the early signs of being able to tell if you're going to have a scope creep. Once there's feedback that is contrary to what was defined in the planning as in scope, then we can identify that as a potential scope creep, and then we can put in the rigor for change control in place to mitigate the scope. And then prioritization, which is one of the benefits of infusing Agile into Waterfall, because we're then able to, at that point, go into the backlog management and say that what techniques do we want to use with the stakeholders at this point to prioritize these requirements. Stakeholders and customers can always come up with 1,000,001 things that they want added, but not everything can be or will always be incorporated into the project scope. So being able to have that negotiation with them, coming up with techniques to prioritize the backlog and trade-offs and whatever it is that need to happen at that point to determine what is most relevant and important, what the must-haves are, what the should have, could have, won't have, whatever it is that you want to use at that point, and then agree on that and then move forward. Everything still comes to communication again. Communication, I think, is the bedrock of success in any project. So being able to engage, being able to discuss, negotiate, communicate, let them know what the impacts will be, what the risks are, doing your risk identification workshops over and over throughout the project as well, not just at the beginning, but categorizing the risks as they come up, monitoring those risks, looking into the risk registers, having the regular risk review meetings, and all those kind of risk management rigors that you typically have in. I find the risk management rigor of Waterfall very helpful in the hybrid project, because I feel like one of the downsides that I've seen of a full Agile project, not that it's bad in itself, is around scope and risk management. And so that infusion of the risk management and the scope management structure of the Waterfall, I find very, very helpful in delivery of a hybrid project. And so that helps with mitigating the risks associated with scope creep as well. Of course, doing a lot of assigning those risks to owners, ensuring accountability, and then doing a lot of scenario planning, what if analysis, simulation exercises, and whatever it is that you want to do. Also helps with a lot of identifying scope creeps and mitigating the risk associated with those scope creeps as you go along.
Great. Thank you. Lots of information. All right. Okay, so I still have many questions to go. Okay, I will take them. But after this question and during this question, you'll also see on your chat, I am going to add a PDU code. Some people will like to use it for maintaining their current certificates. So use that PDU code to maintain. And if you are interested to join, upcoming PMP virtual bootcamp, I do have a program coming up in July 6, 7, and 13, 14. So this is more like a Friday, Saturday, something like this. So 6, 7, 13, 14, that will be evening time for most people in US. And some people like to do that because daytime is done. Okay, I can now really attend this program. Anyway, so link is already there on the chat. If you're not seen, check that. And I will also put hey, I'm going to give you a discount code that can be useful for you if you're joining this program or any other program. That will save you $100. So keep an eye on the chat while I'm going to ask another question to Titi. All right. How do you handle data migration and integration challenges in hybrid projects, especially with legacy systems?
That's a bit of a would I say tough one to answer. I say that because I'm not sure I see the difference again in data migration challenges and integration challenges between hybrid or other methodologies. I think, and Darren can come in here, but I think that the challenges and the solutions are pretty much the same. What are some of the challenges? You have data quality issues, data mapping issues, system downtime, data loss, corruption, whatever it may be. I think that the same solutions that you would employ for handling those challenges, whether it's in waterfall or agile, will be the same approach for hybrid. And I say that because I have managed a data and infrastructure migration project from on-premise to the cloud, or quite a number of them. And I do not think that we've adopted any approach that is different for data quality. I think it's the same thing, conduct thorough data cleansing processes before migration, and some of those other things that you do for data mapping, create detailed data mapping documents and outline how each data element should be transformed and loaded. So I think the process is the same, and I don't think I want to go through like having to, unless it's something different that Darren wants to add.
So, I mean, I think it can be advantageous to have this kind of migration when you are in the hybrid. So you have advantage of the waterfall, and also you have flexibility and adaptability as part of the agile. So I see this more advantageous point rather than challenges part. But in a way, data migration, as you correctly said, is a very similar, actually same. What you do in normal, it's this is a process. It's not about what methodology you use, what you do to do the data migration. So I don't see a difference in any of the methodology. So from that point of view, I don't see much difference. So, but as I said, there's an advantage when you are running portion of that data migration as agile. You may get more flexibility and more adaptability part. Yeah.
Sure.
Right. Okay, good. Let me ask the next question. How do you measure the success of hybrid project, and what key metrics should be tracked?
Okay, for a hybrid project, I think that some of the key metrics for measuring success will be, again, project completion on time and budget. And I think that's very important because time and budget is one of the two constraints. In fact, time, budget, scope are the key constraints that we have in project. And in a hybrid project, because you brought in the agile part, there is the high possibility or probability that those will go, there will be overruns there. So it's important to track time and budgets, particularly in hybrid. Track the project milestones and deadlines are met as planned. This ensures that the team puts in the required rigor, such that whatever changes are coming, you're still keeping an eye strictly on that time and budget, and there are no unnecessary introductions into the project, at any point. The scope and the deliverables are also important, as we talked about. There's at the beginning of the project, you've defined your scope, in scope, out of scope. You've done your baseline. That scope is important to keep an eye on that, measure whether the project is delivering according to that scope or there's scope creep happening frequently in the project. Quality is also very important. The delivery against the predefined acceptance criteria, still under scope and the deliverables. Stakeholder satisfaction is also another key metrics that we should be measuring in a hybrid project. Gather feedback from stakeholders, gauge their satisfaction with the project outcomes. This is very important in a hybrid project, again, because there are multiple stakeholders with multiple requirements and multiple understanding of the infused and hybrid methodology. So that stakeholder engagement is very important. Stakeholder feedback, customer satisfaction using surveys, interviews, whether it's user testing, usability testing, whatever method that you can put in there to actually get the customer satisfaction on products and services. Team performance and productivity is also important. You want to look at velocity of the team, efficiency of the team. Risk management, how well we're able to identify and mitigate our risk, to resolve issues, is also something that we want to track very much in a hybrid delivery. And then the value delivery. What's the business value that was promised versus the value that was delivered? Whether it's that we want to use earned value, whatever it is that we want to use for tracking our business value, return on investment, whatever it is, very important for that. Yeah, I think there's some strategies that I kind of put down here that whether it's that we want to use a balanced scorecard approach. Some of the strategies will be balanced scorecard approach, hybrid project KPIs. So where you're saying combining the traditional project management KPIs with the agile metrics. Regular reviews and adjustments will be another strategy. Conduct regular project reviews to assess the progress and make the necessary adjustments as you go along. Use your sprint retrospectives during the execution to capture this, and then milestone reviews for the traditional part of the project. Have clear definition of the success criteria in itself at the beginning of the project, including SMART goals, integrated tools and platforms. Well, I had utilized project management tools that support both agile and traditional methodologies, which is what I do, but Dharam has told us there's one tool, so I think we should be looking into that. And then, yeah, continuously just improve as we go along.
Exactly. And having right tool will help you to target the right metrics. And if your tool can give you some real-time information, what else is it? You like a pilot flying a plane, you can have a dashboard in front of you and you can see things how progressing.
Yeah. And then just to add, sorry, Darren, so there, in terms of like specific metrics and measurement techniques, we can do things like time to market. We can do things like use like sprint, burn down charts, earned value management, defect rates, customer adoption and usage. Those are like key metrics and measurement techniques that I always ensure that we include in a success measurement for projects.
Perfect. Very nicely said. You highlighted all the points we need to know, the metric, the measurements, and how and when. Yeah, perfect. Okay, I will take the questions which we have received as part of the registration. So, and guys, if you have any questions, further questions, please feel free to put. We almost out of time, actually out of time, but we'll continue taking the question until we are done. And you all have the PDU code. If you don't have, especially people watching the video, you have to ask me, hey Dharam, I watched the video, I learned this, and can you share the PDU code? I will do that. So yeah, let me ask the question. What tactics are available to decide which is better, waterfall, agile, or hybrid?
I feel like we might have answered that question in the process of talking. Yeah, but again, just in case, just to emphasize, it is really around looking at project requirements. So project requirement analysis, complexity, flexibility, timelines, whatever is specific to that project will determine which methodology we want to use. So Agile is suitable, for example, for complex evolving projects with unclear requirements. Waterfall is better for well-defined sequential projects. If the project requires frequent changes and iterations, Agile or hybrid could be appropriate in that case. For timelines where the project has strict deadlines and less room for changes, then Waterfall will be most suitable there, where there's predictability, where there may be specific requirements. There are some projects or organizations that have strict requirements that don't allow for iterative, incremental, or agile, and it all depends. So that could be, timeline could be one of those factors. So obviously stakeholder involvement is another one to look out for. If you want customer feedback and you want to have that frequently, then Waterfall may not be the right methodology. You might want to go with Agile there, or you might want to use hybrid, where you could use Agile for the execution and Waterfall for planning or any other testing phase or whatever you might want to do there. Where there's a lot of collaboration required, then of course Agile will be your go-to, or again, hybrid. Waterfall typically involves where there's clear requirements during upfront, and the clients may be involved only in that requirement phase and maybe the delivery phase and not necessarily in the execution. So that could be another place where you could. So I think it's around the team's capability and experience as well, as we talked about. Even if you wanted to go agile and you don't have a team that has the agile maturity, then it might not be the way to go, or you might have to consider training for the team, or vice versa, waterfall or even hybrid. The team has to be trained for the appropriate methodology based on the pre-selection criteria that for the project in itself. So risk, again, is another thing. So depends on the risk tolerance for the project. If there is allowance for regular assessment and mitigation of risk, then for high-risk projects, Agile is the way to go. Waterfall is more suitable for low-risk projects with well-understood requirements upfront. Then resource availability, tools, the infrastructure you have, the organizational culture, how much documentation you have appetite for, elaborate documentation or minimal documentation, where it's elaborate documentation appetite, then waterfall or hybrid, and where there is no, whether it's resources or appetite or whatever it is for documentation, then Agile might be the way to go. That's not to say you don't document, but the way that documentation is done in Agile is different from waterfall or hybrid, which is the documentation in Agile is mainly done in tools, within the tools themselves, whereas there are loads of tools and outside the tools, artifacts and all that need to be created in waterfall or Agile. And yeah, typically it's just to tailor it to whatever the needs are. Evaluate your steps to doing that, evaluate the project needs, assess the team and organizational readiness, consider the stakeholder preferences, and then pilot and iterate as you go.
Perfect. Good. Thank you. I will take this last question, unless we have something coming from the audience. And she has been waiting for this question, I think. And there's a big team sitting there. So the question is, we have transitioned to Agile and now understand the need for a hybrid process. We are putting together a framework and feel this session will assist us in completing our process. I think it's more like a comment that this is the reason she's here, and to listen to our discussion around hybrid and Agile and Waterfall. Anything you like to, any guidance you want to give to them?
Again, on top of everything we've said already, yeah. So I think from my experience in I have been in an organization where we transitioned from Waterfall to Agile, full Agile, and I led that transition. I've also been in an organization where we've adopted the hybrid. I think that there are they're straightforward steps, but I don't want to take for granted that, I think they're straightforward. But I think the first thing I would say is to define the objectives and the goals, first and foremost. Clarify what you need a hybrid approach for. Is it flexibility? Is it faster delivery? Is it better risk management? Whatever it may be, just identify the objective and then set your goals. Establish clear goals for the hybrid process, such as improving team collaboration, enhancing customer satisfaction, or balancing structure with flexibility, whatever it is. So define the objectives and goals first. Step 2 will be analyzing the project requirements. Segment the project. Break down the project into phases or components that can benefit from Agile or Waterfall. Determine suitable methodologies. Which parts of the project, e.g. development testing, for example, can be done in Agile, and planning and requirements gathering and all of that can be done in Waterfall. It all depends on what you want to accomplish, what your objectives are for the project. And then you design the hybrid framework. Think about workflow integration. How does Agile and Waterfall workflows, how will they integrate? For instance, I've talked about using Waterfall for planning and Agile for execution and iteration. Define your phases. Just talk about how the two will integrate, and talk about what phases, specify what phases you want to clearly use each one for. Waterfall phases, again, are usually good in planning, requirements, analysis, and design, and agile development, deployment, feedback, and then develop your detailed processes, planning and requirements, execution, milestones, and reviews. Start with Waterfall to gather detailed requirements, create a comprehensive project plan, use Agile, e.g. Scrum or Kanban for iterative development and testing, and then set milestones for Waterfall phases and regular sprints for Agile phases. Establish your governance and roles and responsibilities. Define clear roles and responsibilities for team members in both methodologies. In Waterfall roles, you have project manager, business analyst. In Agile roles, you have the Scrum Master, product owner, development team. So putting that structure in place, creating communication and collaboration channels would be the 6th step. Then implement training and change management. That's very critical. Organizational change management. Remember, there's cultural changes and nuances here. So training programs, change management plans to transition to the hybrid project for everyone involved is very important. Then pilot and iterate. Implement the framework, the hybrid framework, and on a pilot project is very essential. Test its effectiveness. Identify the areas of improvement before you put it out on a large scale. Monitor, measure performance, then you scale and optimize.
Yeah. So I think we're good with this question now. That's enough because the time is running already out. And we thank you for your contribution, and thank you all of you for asking the questions, interesting questions. It was really awesome to listen to you and your real experience, which made this discussion more interesting. And so anybody interested to know more about and want to seek guidance from Titi, feel free to connect with her or connect with me. If you want to talk to me, very simple, you can book my time by saying talk to Dharam, www.talktodharam.com. You will get a prompt and you will book my time. If you have booked my time, you can talk to me anything. Of course, that's to be related. Let me know what you want to discuss, and happy to discuss about your PMP or any methodologies or PGMP or PFMP. All right, I think it was great and lots of learning, especially for people who are thinking, should we migrate to Agile, move to a hybrid, or stay on the waterfall? You have to explain very well all advantage, disadvantage of all the three. What is the best way to migrate from one to another? This is a hot topic, and we can continue to talk about this forever. And but I'd like to thank you from the people who joined today on their behalf. I'm sure they have learned a lot. I hope you learn, guys. You learn, and if you learn, please put a note. Yeah, thank you to Titi, and it's always good to see some appreciation. And this video will be available on YouTube in a few days. So keep an eye on this video, and also watch other videos we have from more than 200, 250 webinars and podcasts. I'm sure you will learn from each of them. And some of the webinars can also give you recording, even recording can give you PDUs as well. So keep learning and keep growing. Thank you, Titi.
Thank you, Dharam. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you everyone today for joining this session. And I'm sure you have learned a lot and love to know your feedback. If you can drop me a message, hey Dharam, it was great. What did you learn? That will be awesome. Okay, great. I think we have a next one coming up on 11th of July. So with Jan from South Africa, it is going to be another great session. So thank you, all of you. Thank you, Titi, for your contribution. And I will be in touch with you anyway. And please stay with us, connect with us, and continue to learn from us. All right, guys, take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.